Always wonderful to film a video where you get angry, and then do one where you're happy. Oh my god. If bipolar disorder was a thing for me, those videos would be a hell of a way to display it. Anyway, oh my god, Scott gave Deadpool 1 half a star? Good gracious. Well, I'll never know because I'll never watch it, so what does it matter? Anyway, I got a friend who's editing footage that I filmed, but like sports footage, so he's seen all the perils I had to deal with while he's trying to get scores and stuff. Anyway, it's another month in. It's currently the 26th that I'm filming, so I've still got a couple of days left to go. So let's dive into it. Some of these I'll have done in Blu-ray reviews, and I've actually talked about them more, so I'll just kind of skim through that. So let's just kind of speed up the pace a little. So I started the month with On the Rocks because I had Apple TV Plus for 3 months for free and I hadn't used any of it, and I hate that because there's also nothing on the goddamn platform that I've actually haven't seen. Like, Apple TV is great for certain reasons only. They've only got basically their exclusive stuff that they've made for the platform itself, and then the rest of it you got to rent. And I'm not a huge fan of that because obviously they're not spending the money to get more stuff in, they're just making originals, which can be fine, but also just means that give it a month and you can watch everything on there. And I had it so that my dad could finish watching. Initially it was actually so they could watch Downton Abbey. Turns out you still had to rent it, so it was a waste of everyone's time. And they rented it on Foxtel anyway for the same price. But I used it because it was on my TV, and I had nothing to watch on it, so I was really disappointed by that. And I love, like, For All Mankind, they've got the Monarch show, they've got Severance, they've got a couple of good things on it that I've already seen, so I didn't have anything to watch. My dad was able to watch, I think, the final of For All Mankind, but not the final of Monarch, so that's on him. He had 3 months. So I watched On the Rocks, because I figured, I don't know, it's a movie, and I like Sofia Coppola, it's 90 minutes, why not? I give it 3 stars, it's fine, it's just, the only interesting part about it is basically Bill Murray's character, which is ridiculous. Mostly because, again, it's got a good cast to it, and again, it got a good writer-director, but it just doesn't feel like a Coppola film, and it's also just kind of bland. It's basically, oh, she's rich and divorced, cry for her, not the character, Sofia Coppola. So I don't give a shit about that, so sorry, girl. I'll give you 3 stars, but I ain't giving you any more. That's just, what a waste of time. But then on the second, I watched Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, which is also a documentary on Apple TV, and that was worth the free subscription alone. 5 stars, beautiful documentary, really covers Fox's life and career really, really well. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know about him. Obviously, I knew he had Parkinson's and stuff because I grew up Back to the Future, but I also grew up with The Good Wife. So his character shows up on that, and his character is like he actually is in real life. And I was like, man, that's really interesting. So it's really interesting seeing them dive into that kind of stuff. Really, really good documentary. And I think I then gave up on... I tried watching Argyle. I got about 30 minutes in. I got 6 minutes in. Was like, fuck this, I'm watching On the Rocks. Then went back after On the Rocks to watch 20 more minutes. I'm like, man, this movie sucks. I'm not finishing this. This is almost 3 hours long. It looks like shit. It's boring as hell. I ain't watching this. So even for free, I ain't wasting 2 hours of my life on that piece of shit. So there you go. I will forget that I ever saw that part of it. Don't watch that movie. Here are some movies that you could not watch. On the 3rd, I did a triple feature. I watched The Cannonball Run, because I got that umbrella set of the box of Burt. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was fun. I guess if you're a young folk with the political-minded stuff, you won't like it, but I don't know, who gives a shit? It's just a bunch of actors going crazy. It's fine, I enjoyed it. Then I watched The Cannonball Run 2, which was fine. I gave it 2 stars. It's the same film, not as good, and becomes way too messy by the end of it, to the point that they literally forget to finish the story and just do a animated sequence instead. I don't know, it's fine. It's not worth watching, realistically, but if you have the set, go for it. They're like 90-minute films, it doesn't really matter. Actually, I think that's a bit longer, maybe 100 minutes, but still. 108 minutes, in fact, was Cannonball Run. That's Cannonball Run 2. That's ridiculous. Then I watched Stroker Ace, which, again, box of Burt. I gave it 2.5 stars. I enjoyed it. It's okay. It gets to a point where there's a whole scene that's like, man, if you cut out this scene, you got a good movie. But instead they left it in, and it's like, man, this guy's kind of rapey. Oh, not great. They try to play it off as a joke. It doesn't work because it doesn't edit well. So yeah, not great. The film itself is fine, I guess. Then you got The Man Who Loved Women, which is apparently a comedy. It's definitely a drama, and it's a bad drama at that. I gave it 2 stars. It's It's got a good cast, but again, it's like, I don't know, if you're going to start your film that's apparently a comedy with a funeral, then make it a funny funeral. It's too serious out the gate. It doesn't work. Then there's The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, which I gave 3.5 stars. And that's a very fun film. A good release, good special features. I mean, look, the whole set for me was a freebie, so I didn't mind. And again, I did a whole unboxing Blu-ray review talking about them all. Then on the 5th, I did, man, I'm watching so many movies. Because I watched 3 on the 3rd, 2 on the 4th, 4 on the 5th. Oh, it was a Friday. I had the day off. I started with Blowout from 1981. I watched the Criterion in 4K. Haven't seen it for a couple years, to the point that I hadn't logged in Letterboxd. Loved it. You know, you can't go wrong. It's not my favourite De Palma. I'm probably more of a Carrie and or Dress to Kill kind of person, but Blowout is tremendous. If not a masterpiece, it is very, 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 very close. I followed it up with The Conversation. This is the previous Studio Canal release, so still a restoration, but not the 4K. And I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but it was a good kind of thematic follow-up for Blowout. Again, it was also like fucking like 7 years before Blowout came out. But a similar idea of like with paranoia and stuff. And it's good. It's a really interesting film. Amazing performances. So and a good sound design. So I think I listened to the mono track, but either way, maybe it was the 5.1. Either way, it sounded good. Then I wanted to give myself a little difference. You know, I had this new 4K for Young Guns. I bought it for $20 on Amazon. Let's take a look. It was not great. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's a good looking film, and the 4K looks amazing. The sound design is great, very loud, a lot of gunshots. Not a good story. The first, I think it's like 2 hours long. The first hour and a bit is really not great. There's like a good 30 minutes in this movie. Then it just, the ending is awful. Dreadfully bad. In the way it's filmed and edited, awful. So I didn't like it that much. I don't hate that I got the 4K. Better than getting the $40 Blu-ray from Umbrella that had the sequel in it, because I'm like, I'm definitely ain't watching the sequel now. But man, I wish I had to stream this instead or something. Woof. Then I also followed it up with Twister, which I've had the Blu-ray for a while now, about a year, and I haven't watched it since I was a kid. And I know there's a new 4K out, which I'm going to get in October when it comes out in Australia. I'm not going to import the US one because I don't think there's any point. Assuming the Australian one comes with the same special features, I won't need to import. But Twister was great. 4 stars. I genuinely enjoy this film. I know for some reason people think it's bad, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. It's fun. It's just a divorced couple dealing with their problems. Also, they're chasing twisters. What can go wrong? It's perfect. Really fun. 10. I was going to say 10 out of 10, but no. 8 out of 10. Then on the 6th, we watched Little Shop of Horrors, the director's cut at the Astor for the Cinemaniacs. This was in celebration of Lee's birthday, which would have been obviously beautiful if he had have been there. But the film is marvelous. I adore this film so much. It was an introduction for so many of my friends. Helene hadn't seen it, Guy hadn't seen it, Phil and Katie hadn't seen it, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this is the best. And everyone in the cinema was enjoying it. There was a guy who, I think it's Stephen, who's very loud when he laughs and very distinct, because is he Scottish or Irish? It's one of the two, I always forget. Scottish, he wore a goddamn kilt. I could always hear him laughing off to the side. I'm like, I hope that doesn't annoy anyone, because I'm vibing with this. I'm on the same wavelength he is, except he's doing the laughing for me. So it was wonderful, terrific experience, 5-star film, absolute masterpiece. The theatrical cut's still fine. I lent it to my friends so they could watch the ending properly, but I definitely would recommend this film to anyone, especially the director's cut. Especially on the big screen. Oh my god, it looks so good. Then on the 7th, I double featured Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which I gave 3 stars. I'm like, I guess I'm going back on Netflix. And it's not my least favourite of the films, that's for sure. I think for me, it's on par with the first film. I did not like the third. Never watching it again. The second film is top tier of all these because it's like everyone's on cocaine, they're having the time of their lives. I'm enjoying this. First one, not bad. The Axel F is basically the first one if you already knew the characters. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I enjoy both of them. I think they're good. It's fine for what it's worth. 3 stars. I enjoyed it. Then I watched Matilda from '96. The Danny DeVito one. I realized that there is actually a musical, isn't there? Loved it. Gave it 4.5 stars. I was just like, man, I need to get this film on 4K because the Netflix film is fine. The Netflix version is fine, but my God, beautiful film. I love that Caitlin suggested watching this. It was a treasure to watch. I'd never seen it, so I was really happy with that. Beautiful film. Then on the 8th, I watched Phantom of the Paradise because I think I was either finishing off The Shield and I finished off the season, or my brother and his partner, I think, were over, so they were watching shit in here. So I only had like 90 minutes to watch a film at the end of the night, so I watched Phantom of the Paradise, and it's still really fun. I gave it 4 stars. I haven't seen it for a good number of years. I watched a lot of De Palma in my early university years, so I had never logged it on Letterboxd, like 2017, 2018 period. And this was a favourite of mine for such a long time, but it's definitely not my favourite of his films, but still very fun. Just a good film. A hell of a good film. He's a good filmmaker. On the 9th, I watched the 4K of The Warriors from Arrow Video, gave it 4.5 stars. A fun rewatch. Hadn't seen this film in apparently 2 years. Time flies. But the 4K, marvellous. It looks so goddamn good. The imprint version is still good in terms of special features and cover art and everything, but the Arrow release, my God. But I had to import it, which was the only annoying thing. But as in, from the US, not from the UK, which is the only annoying thing about it. But at the same time, amazing film. Then I watched a double feature of Rambling Rose on the 10th, which I gave 4 stars. Imprint's release, did an unboxing review. Pretty good film. And then I did Rent-A-Cop, because again, I had 90 odd minutes, and I was like, I'll watch it. I only got it because it was basically a trade-in for Orca, because Cinemaniacs didn't have Orca anymore, and I'm like, alright, I'll get Rent-A-Cop, because at least Lee still did a commentary for it. It's a 4K scan. I've been watching a bunch of Burt Reynolds. Not great. I gave it 2 stars. Not a good film. The Kino release is really good. It looks fantastic, and the only special feature is Lee's commentary, so I'll have to endeavour to watch the film with his commentary, but oh my God, the film is really just kind of dull. Everyone seems tired in it. No one's really funny. The romance is, it looks pretty, but it's just, I don't know, like glitter on a piece of shit. Just ain't the same thing, is it? On the 11th, I watched A Lizard in Woman's Skin, gave it 4.5 stars. Of course, did my Umbrella unboxing and review on that. Tremendous film. One of my favorite from Lucio Fulci's now. I love his films. They're so good. So I really enjoyed it. Just absolute mental crazy shit. But the Blu-ray release was tremendous. Comes with a bunch of great special features that dive into the film perfectly. So definitely worth watching. Of course, I've done my Blu-ray review as well. On the 12th, we watched Maxine. My partner and I wanted to see it because, of course, we had watched X and had watched Pearl. It was weird because Pearl was the only one that didn't get a theatrical release here until after I bought the Blu-ray, which I had to import. That would have been nice on the big screen, especially at the Astor, but I forgot that I actually did quite enjoy X. Apparently I gave it 4 stars a couple weeks when it came out. And Pearl I really like, so I'm like, Maxine's got to be good. I enjoyed the previous 2 films. I gave it 2.5 stars. You know, I was watching all those Brian De Palmas. That might not have been a good thing, because this is just a bad rip-off of a Brian De Palma film. But, like, none of the ones I'd watched recently, it's a rip-off of Body Double. And I'm like, what the fuck? There are elements to the film I like, but I just don't like the film that much as a whole. Again, I gave it 2.5 stars. It was really disappointing to me. I'm hoping to like it more on rewatch, but even my partner was just like, what the fuck was that? So luckily it was only $10 tickets at Reading Cinema. So yeah, I love how it's not actually pronounced Readings, it's Readings. Who'd have thought? But yeah, so not a great film in my mind. I know a lot of people really like it, but it also seems unsurprisingly quite divisive. So I mean, look, at the same time, it's a Ty West film. You either love it or you hate it, and I think I'm in the kind of hate it kind of camp. So eventually I'll probably get a Blu-ray release. Whether or not I like the film, again, on rewatch, who knows? Probably not. I didn't like it this time. I probably won't like it next time. Anyway, but then on the 13th, we watched Twisters, which I gave 3.5 stars. I might I mean, my brother gave it 4.5, which is crazy, but a lot of people love this, and some people like it more than the original, and I'm like, it's like the original, but with just enough narrative tweaks, and I do like the characters. Glenn Powell, of course, is great. The lead actress, who I don't know the name of, is really fun. Maybe I need to actually look up what her name is. Daisy Edgar Jones. I should be able to remember that. It's not hard. But, you know, good cast, great special effects. It's just a really fun ride of a film. I think I expected a bit more to it because I didn't find it as intense as a lot of people did, especially during the final sequence. But yeah, it was. I still enjoyed it a lot. I'd probably maybe 3.5 to 4 stars realistically, but I'm content with 3.5 for now. I might enjoy it more on rewatch, but I mean, I just like the original so much. But I didn't really compare it that much outside of the narrative things. It's like, as its own film, it still works really well. It's not a sequel in the traditional sense, and it's not really a remake in the traditional sense either. It kind of is, but also not really. But it's good. It's really fun. I'd suggest it. Great cinema experience. And then on the 14th, I double featured Three Women from 1977. I watched the Criterion release because Shelley Duvall had passed away on the Friday, and of course, it's the one goddamn weekend where I'm out for the weekend, so I couldn't... I mean, the same as, like, the 13th was, like, Lee's birthday, so it's like, I couldn't do anything to celebrate people I admire. So, for Shelley Duvall, it was I had to wait till the Sunday to get back home to watch Three Women, and 5 stars, masterpiece, fucking tremendous film. I honestly find no faults in it whatsoever. It is so goddamn good. The Blu-ray was surprisingly bare bones for a Criterion. I'm pretty sure it just has like a commentary and like behind the scenes stuff and like some still images. Still a good photo gallery, but like, I don't know, strange, but apparently the commentary is really good, dives into it nicely, so I'll have to watch it with the commentary sometime. But yeah, tremendous fucking film. Shelley Duvall is so good. Sissy Spacek is amazing. It's just got a good cast all around. It's a solid flick. You can't go wrong. But again, I double featured it with The Raid. That was when I was watching it to try to fix my 4K TV settings. I didn't get the brightness right, but the rest of it still looked fantastic with Dolby Vision. It's such a good film. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's a good, solid action film. It's compelling, it's interesting, it's fun. It's just solid. It's a good goddamn flick. And again, I've done my Blu-ray review box set unboxing for limited edition from Umbrella as well. So hey. I just hadn't finished it from the other night, so I had only watched like 30 minutes, but it was like 1 a.m. when I was watching it, so I'm like, I need to film this video and go to bed. So I did that. So, yeah. Very, very good. Very good. And the 4K looks so goddamn nice. On the 15th, because Shannon Doherty had passed away, and I never really watched 90210 or anything. I only discovered the day that she'd passed away that she was actually in, well, it was actually the day after, because of the night that she'd passed away, so the next day. And I discovered that she was in Heathers, so I'm like, I haven't watched Heathers for a long time, you know. I grew up with the DVD, I've had the Blu-ray since 2020, but never watched it. 4K restoration from our video. I know there's a UHD coming out soon, which I don't plan to get now because the 4K standard version, the standard Blu-ray disc, is already amazing. It looks so goddamn nice. I can imagine a UHD would give it the extra pulp with the colors and whatever, but I'm like, I'm content. I gave it 5 stars. Such a good film. And again, surprising that Shannon Doherty's in a lot of that movie. And she's great in it too. Like, it's a good cast. Winona's great. Christian Slater is great. Shannon's great. It's, you know, it's one of those. I can see the loss. You know, I mean, obviously, it's always sad when an actor passes away, especially from breast cancer. So, yeah, I just thought it was an interesting way to kind of honor that to some degree. Same as with Three Women and Shelley. So, you know, it's interesting. But you know, I know a lot of people, a lot of friends of mine who are very sad about it because they had obviously grown up with 90210 and I hadn't. So, yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. And now for something completely different, I watched Psycho Goreman because Phil and Katie had lent me their Blu-ray edition and I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. And oh my god, so many people did not like this movie. And I'm like, I get it. My mate who bought the Blu-ray thinking he'd like it because he liked The Void, so did I. Thought he'd like it, he liked the special effects, but he hated the characters and the story. And I'm like, that's fair. You know, I can understand it because the main girl could be seen as insanely annoying, and I'm like, I get it, you know, I understand it. she was a bit to begin with, but then I realized it's her character. This is what they're doing. It's a what 8-9-year-old girl's perspectives onto things. It's insane, and also I really enjoyed it nonetheless. Like the comedy, I thought still worked quite well. Just how crazy it got. I loved the practical effects, the suit work, the stop motion, the miniatures. There was so much great effects work, and the story is just so bizarre that I'm like, it's such a distinct film on its own that I kind of just appreciate it for that element. Couldn't give it the 4.5 to 5 stars that I know that like Phil and Katie love it, but I'm like, I think it'll grow on me. I really liked it, so I'm happy. That I at least liked it the first time around. So yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. And I felt like I'm in the mood to watch a film that's of a similar caliber in terms of crazy effects, probably a terrible story with crap characters. So I watched The Toxic Avenger. That was really fun. I gave it 4 stars as well. I've ordered the 4K set because of it, because I'm like, I have none of the sequels, and I can spend $120 to get the 4K set in contrast to the mediocre Blu-ray set. So, I just figured, look, I gotta get them. This film was really fun, even if the others aren't that great. At least I can watch them in good quality instead of spending $90 to get the shitty Blu-rays. Or at least not great Blu-rays. I know the second film was like a DVD upscale transfer by accident, but still, they never fixed it. My God, it's a hell of a picture. It's one of those films where I'll Snapchat a bunch of scenes to my mates, and they'll be like, wait, you haven't watched The Toxic Avenger? I'm like, I know, what the fuck is wrong with me? I've never watched a Troma film. And this is like, I think my first Troma film, and I was like, man, I think even my review was pretty surprisingly popular. I got 7 likes on it, that's nice. I don't think this film knows what the phrase taking it too far means, which is good, because it goes all the way to Tromaville. I actually thought that was a pretty fun review. I'm not great with my words, but sometimes I find the heart and soul. Anyway, on the 17th, I rewatched Challenges, which, how I mentioned at the start how I was angry? I was talking about the Blu-ray release and how disappointed I was in that, so that'll be coming out soon. Still love it, 5 stars, beautiful film, I fucking love it, what a masterpiece. Cinema has peaked already this year. I don't need any other film to be good. Which is good, because it's like, I don't expect any other film to be good this year. I don't know, I'm planning to go to MIF, so hopefully something's good there. But, yeah, I'm not really a film festival person, but I gotta try to change that, I guess. Anyway, I also followed that up with Vampire Girl vs. Frankenstein Girl, because my friends had lent me a 4-pack of Japanese splatter films from the early 2000s, which basically is like, what if Lady Snowblood, but we also had CGI. And it's weird. I gave it 3.5 stars. There were some very obviously controversial. There's a lot of these films this month that have had very controversial elements to them, where they're non-PC kind of stuff, like slurs and blackface and a whole bunch of shit. But within the context of what you're watching, it makes sense to so many degrees. Like, this film has blackface, kind of. It's Japanese characters who are dressing up like a specific I don't think it's African American exactly, but it's a specific tribal African group, which is very obvious from when you look at them, and it's meant to be a satire against people who do that, because people were doing that in Japan at the time, which is crazy. I don't know, it hits on that verge of Aryan race kind of stuff, of just, we think they're superior, so we're going to dress like them. And I'm like, man, that's kind of crazy. But it works within the context of the film because it's stylized. Everything is stylized. You got the Suicide Girls and everything. A lot of it's stylized to the point of ramped up for comedic energy. And obviously, it's one of those, if this stuff kind of triggers you, you'd be like, I can't watch this. And that's completely fair. The self-harm girls, crazy, that kind of stuff. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. But it also works within the plot. All these crazy sections and all these crazy characters leads to all of these different parts of them becoming the Frankenstein girl. Meanwhile, there's this really stupid vampire romance going on. Oh, what a movie. Japanese films, they're crazy, man. Anyway, let's talk about another controversial film, Endless Love, which I've also done a Blu-ray review on. I watched it, I gave it 3 stars. I did enjoy it. I know a lot of people hate it. A lot of people on Letterboxd are like, this is too creepy, because there's a lot of different reasons. A lot of people didn't like the mother seeing them doing the stuff, but then it's like, why they're not as concerned as like the age gap between the characters. Like, I'm not an age gap person, but like when you look at the real life, they're actually like, oh, this guy's actually 21 and he's making out with a 15-year-old. You know, there's stuff like that that's a bit, ooh, that's irky. But the film is really interesting. I was looking at it more for the context of it, how the characters are acting, the behavior of everything, how crazy it goes, because it's a wild goddamn narrative. And again, I've heard that the book is a lot better in depicting it, a lot darker. Not that I'll probably ever read it, but you know, I understand that there's a lot of contrast between the book and the film, and that's why people don't like the film, but they also don't like the film for these other several reasons, and I understand it, but I did find the film to be quite interesting all of its own, so hence 3 stars, but with a like, because I'm like, I enjoyed it, I think it's interesting. It's not a great depiction of what it's doing, but it's interesting. What did I watch the next day? Oh, fuck. I watched Endless Love again. Yeah, I watched it the second time because I watched it with the commentary by Lee Gambin, which fucking so goddamn interesting. Helped for the Blu-ray review especially, but it is a really, really good audio commentary. And it's coming from someone who really, really loved the film and, like, believed that it deserved a better kind of reputation than it got. So yeah, for that alone, I was like, man, this is insane. But it's such a detailed audio commentary. So if you ever get the Shout Factory release, I highly suggest listening to the commentary track. On the same day, because I was expecting to watch Kinds of Kindness the next day, I watched Dogtooth, the Yorgos Lanthimos film from 2009. I've had the DVD for a couple of years. It's interesting. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't find it to be comedic like everyone says it is, which is interesting. It seemed... I understood the comedy more or less like after the fact. It was almost like The Lobster. The Lobster didn't seem like a comedy to me until almost after the fact, but then on rewatches I've seen more of the comedy shine through, and I found it to be quite hilarious. And I think Dogtooth will take the same path, where it's like, I've interpreted it as like a drama the first time around, but I can definitely see the comedic elements towards it. It's fucking mental. It's really good though. Like, Yorgos is a hell of a filmmaker, so I'd suggest it. It's crazy, but it's good. On the 20th, I had a very long day of filming for work, and then I went to the Astor with Phil and Katie, and we watched Longlegs. It was, again, meant to be a double feature with Kinds of Kindness, but it was 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I was really tired. I was already getting a headache by the time I was leaving to, send Phil and Katie off. I was like, I'm going to go home. I'd already gotten the free ticket to see Longlegs from the fact that I had all these points from going to the Astor for the Cinemaniacs, so I was like, alright, whatever. And I liked the film. I gave it 3.5 stars. There was elements where I was like, more dreading, like maybe I was going to get a panic attack because of how apparently crazy and anxiety-inducing the film is. But it never really reached that to me. And again, I had the idea in mind that this was a Silence of the Lambs kind of thing for like on the new generation. But I'm like, it doesn't even really do that. It's more like if Silence of the Lambs was art house and also demons. A lot of demonic stuff in movies this year. Maxine had it, obviously First Omen, like a lot of demon stuff this year. It's crazy. A lot of satanic panic. And this kind of verges into that area too. It's interesting. I did still like it. I liked how it's filmed. I liked the acting. Nick Cage was interesting. It's one of those... He didn't seem like Nick Cage until he started screaming in a car, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Nick Cage, alright. It's a bizarre film. It didn't strike me the way I think a lot of people did, and I was kind of on the same boat with Phil and Katie. We were all like, we liked it, but then the ending became too expository. It explained too much of itself without leaving any room for either interpretation or just, these all make sense if we just cut out the narration and just put in like the visuals of like, oh, this person goes from here to there. They can put it together, so can we. We're not dumb. But then the film kind of makes it feel like I am dumb. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I guess I saw most of the twists coming as well, so it's like, I don't know. It was interesting. I don't know if I'll watch it again. But it was interesting. I'm happy I did, though, because a lot of people have been talking about it. I'm like, I need to watch this, so I was happy to see it at least. Then on the 21st, I did a triple feature. I watched The Long Voyage Home, which I did the imprint Blu-ray unboxing review. I gave it 4.5 stars. Amazing film. Superb release. Definitely worth watching. Then I watched Hero, the director's cut, which is, again, the new imprint Blu-ray, which I've done my Blu-ray video on. And I really liked that as well. I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, that's good. I contrasted a little bits of it to the theatrical release, but I was happy with the director's cut, so it's good. And then I feel like, because it's the same director, similar cast, similar style, so I watched House of the Flying Daggers from 2004, which I also really liked. It's a DVD copy, definitely needs a better release, but I gave it 4 stars. I think I like it a bit more than Hero, but I think Hero is a better film. House of the Flying Daggers definitely has a great visual look to it, but it's kind of let down by the fact that it becomes a melodramatic romance. Because it's like, if it prizes itself almost on its action, but also it feels like it's forcing itself to have action scenes for the sake of, we have this visual style, we've got to get people involved because no one's going to watch a romance. And then the last, 30 minutes is like, oh, there's this big war that's going to happen, but we're not going to show it, we're just going to have this romance thing happen. I'm like, what are you doing? Why? So, kind of a weak third act, but I guess it kind of works. It's almost Shakespearean, but also really, really just bizarre in how, I don't want to say wanky or pretentious, it's just really, really melodramatic. That's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, as of the past couple of days, I've been watching a bunch of Wong Kar-wai films because I guess I'm just getting back into Asian cinema, baby. Can't go wrong. So I watched As Tears Go By, which I gave 4 stars. His debuts, the Criterion, all these are the Criterion 4K scans. They look insanely good. I know people find the controversial stuff with the color timing differences and whatever. But I'm like, look, this is just how I'm watching these films because that's just how they are. I really liked it. It was similar to a lot of narratives I've seen before, so it wasn't too surprising, but it also doesn't feel like he's fully realised his own directorial vision. So, yeah, but still a good start, It looks great. It's really well acted. Maggie Cheung is fantastic. I love Maggie Cheung. She's so goddamn good. So, yeah, can't go wrong there. And then, of course, she's also in Hero. I didn't realise so many of these Wong Kar-wai people were in Hero. And it's like, oh my god, Tony Leung, what the fuck? So anyway, then I watched The Seventh Curse because I wanted the Maggie Cheung double feature whilst not being a Wong Kar-wai double feature. And this was from, 2 years prior, from the director of a film I watched a couple of days later. But I really love this. This was the uncut Hong Kong version. It's just pure insanity. It is such a crazy fucking movie. Even narratively trying to describe what happens, it's like, it's a prologue about a sequel, about a prequel, about this, about that. It's a story within a story within a story. And it just sticks with it. Every time they're like, oh, I have to tell you about this. Let's have a 20-minute backstory thing and not cut back at all. Just a straight narrative device to prologue what's going to happen after. So it's to set up what has to be paid off later. It's crazy. It's almost like a 60-minute long film in the guise of a 90-minute long feature. Actually, it's 83 minutes. So, yeah, there's about 20 minutes of prologue and epilogue. It's kind of fucking mental. But great visuals, great practical effects. It's just insane visuals. Really fun if you like Hong Kong cinema. Then I watched on the 23rd, Days of Being Wild, which, why did I not watch anything else on it? Right, because Noah and his partner were over. So yeah, I watched Days of Being Wild, which again, Wong Kar-wai, his second feature. I gave it 3.5. I wasn't as big on it as a lot of people seem to be. A lot of people were like, this is a masterpiece, best film ever made. And I'm like, it's alright. I didn't like the main character that much, so I couldn't emotionally connect to that. But I liked all the other characters, which also knowing that this is kind of a vague prequel to In the Mood for Love, and I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense, alright. Again, Maggie Cheung, Tony Leung shows up at the goddamn end for no reason. I love it. It's all art house. So if you don't like art house Hong Kong stuff, you're not going to like these films. But I thought it was still quite nice, visually interesting, really dramatic and sad. But yeah, he has that style to him. So it was still good. I would definitely probably enjoy it more on rewatch because it's one of those things where you might not get it or understand these films the first time around, but then on rewatch, you pick up on it more, or you've at least had time to process it and look up kind of, what the fuck does this mean? and then you understand it, and you go back to it, and you're like, I get it now, you know? It clicks. But this one didn't click immediately, so I still enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of boring, and then it got a bit better. So, a kind of boring art house film in my mind, but I was still like, it's still well directed and acted, and some of the characters are interesting, so it has some perks to it. On the 24th, I watched 3 movies. I watched Crybaby, the theatrical cut in 4K, courtesy of the Kino Lorber release. My first John Waters, really liked it. Really fun musical. Just great. Really funny. Had a great scene to do with Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is always a good thing. Highly worth watching. Definitely the new 4K release, which also comes with the director's cut on Blu-ray, which I will eventually watch someday. I also watched Ricky-O, the story of Ricky, the 88 films release. Same as Seventh Curse was also an 88 films release. I was really... I gave it 4 stars. I feel like it's maybe a 3.5 star. I'm torn on it because it's like... It wasn't as crazy as I expected. My mate sold it to me as a... This is a film that you'll send me a bunch of Snapchats of all the scenes that happen. But all the scenes that happen go like that. Like, all the crazy effects are so quick. Not too quick, but not. I'd have to whip out my phone, rewind it, play it again, and I don't like having to keep doing that. I'm like, I'm tight on time. I can't do this. I still enjoyed it. It's an interesting story again. It's got some amazing effects. Like, you watch and you're like, this is the pinnacle of splatter in the 90s. It's so goddamn crazy. 1991, like, and that's just the start of the 90s. It's interesting though. It's I always found it weird because he's never once called Ricky in the film, because I watched the Cantonese version. So, of course, they're not going to call him Ricky in that. They're kind of calling him what his actual name is. It's like Lick Mung or something like that. And it's like, his actual name is credited as like Ricky-O Lick Mung, like one of those things. And it's like, in the American dub, which a lot of people prefer because of how bad the dub is, which makes the film so bad it's good, has this element where it's like, it doesn't sound that bad when I put it on, but they call him Ricky in the dub, obviously, because they call them all English names. But again, even the film starts off by saying, oh, this is the story of Ricky. And I'm like, cool, who the fuck is Ricky? And he's a super-powered guy, and because of that, it's almost like One Punch Man, where every time he gets hurt or put in chains, he just breaks out of it, and he's not dead, or he has like an artery cut, and he just rips it out and ties it up. It's that level of insane, but it detracted from the character being interesting to me. And even when they gave you his backstory, it's like, yeah, sure, I guess. The visuals are still great. Look at him. He just punches one guy and the guy's head just explodes. It's insanely good gore. But it wasn't as crazy to me as the Seventh Curse, which is why I prefer the Seventh Curse. But the Seventh Curse's narrative is too messy, in contrast to Ricky-O, which is such a straight-based narrative. Guy in prison, people are corrupt, he has to kill those people, and he has to fight mini-bosses before he gets to the top. And that big boss bad guy, holy shit, it's like a video game. It's just, my god. So yeah, maybe with an audience, this would play really, really well, because it's so crazy. You'd be like, this is hilarious. Especially if you watch the English dub with people. It would probably be insane. But still, I enjoyed it, still. And of course, I had to watch another one called Why, so I watched Chunking Express. Again, the 4K thing from Criterion, and this is a rewatch. I hadn't seen it since, I think, in cinema a couple of years back. We're doing it in class, but they had them playing at Acme, so we watched that in the Grandmaster, my dad and I, and In the Mood for Love, if I'm not mistaken. But nevertheless, I love this film so much. I gave it 5 stars this time. I'd only given it 4.5 stars last time because I wasn't huge on the first 40 minutes. But this time I really liked the first 40 minutes. But it's like one of those things like, man, these first 40 minutes, they're not bad. They're getting somewhere, but they're not bad. And then the next hour happens and you're like, oh my god, this is the best film I've ever made. So, just beautiful. Love it so much. And then I watched its more thematic sequel, even though the character from the previous film, Chunking Express, is still in this film, Fallen Angels, but it's just the same name of the character. He's a different character. He even has a different backstory and he's a different style of character, but it's a thematic flip of a coin. Wonka Wai even mentions how the film is basically meant to be the antithesis to Chunking. Chunking is during the day, it's bright, it's happy, it's a bit sappy as well because there's like some sadness that happens, but it's you know, it's mostly set during the day, it's all that kind of stuff. And then you contrast that to Fallen Angels, which I gave 4 stars. I really liked it. I definitely know I'll like it more on rewatch because it's going to be one that grows on me. But again, it's such a flip coin to Chungking that it's like, you can't really double feature them, but you can at the same time. It's just such a thematic contrast. Because again, it's all set at night. It's got darker themes to it. It's more gritty. It takes more of an approach of like his first film of the kind of darker, what's the darker, violent crime wave stuff, but also outcasty characters, bizarre romances that are cutesy and whatever. So it's like, it's a Wonka Wai film, And then I watched Stop Motion, which right after Fallen Angels, which I gave 2.5 stars. Initially, I gave it 2 stars. I was not big on it. I got the Blu-ray in on sale, and I really, really wanted to like this. I was so excited to watch it, and then I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't like this film. It was really pretentious. It's about like, the art and how the artist is this. There's so much crap. I don't know. Check out my Letterboxd review. I'm pretty not very happy about the film. I love the stop motion stuff. There's a great stop motion with live action sequence about 55 minutes in that I really liked, and then the last like 5 to 10 minutes are quite intense with that kind of stuff. But again, I just don't care for the characters. None of it connected to me. It was so pretentious in that artist's point of view of, I have to do my project by myself. I'm a talented artist. I've been upkept by my mother being so controlling, and now I have my own artistic liberty. But oh no, I have no creative devices to write a story, so instead this girl's going to help me out. What's this? We're doing a fight club? The girl's not real? It's a reflection of her inner self? Oh my god. It's really, really pretentious. So, yeah. Anyway, what else did I watch this month? Next up, on the 26th, we have Happy Together, which I gave 3.5 stars. Again, part of the Wonka Wai set. Really slowed down in terms of pace, much more focused on just 2 characters rather than jumping around and whatever. I liked it. It was interesting. Definitely has a lot of growing room for me to have with it, but it was a different perspective on relationships and everything, but still seemed... It's very Wonka Wai. I enjoyed it. It was a good film. Then on the same night, I watched Carrie, because I got the 4K in, and I was like, look, I gotta watch it. Watched it in 4K, original mono. Actually, no, I watched the 5.1, because it just had a bit more space to it, but also I had my headphones on, so I kind of just felt like it. Looks stunning. It's the new 4K. I gave it 5 stars. It's such a beautiful film. I absolutely love it. On the 27th, I went to the Cinemaniacs and watched Poison Ivy, which I gave 3 stars. I actually enjoyed it. I know a lot of people during the screening did not. We actually saw technically the uncut version because it had all these like standard definition like inserts, which it already felt like I was watching a DVD on a goddamn projector, but it had all these like dodgy looking inserts, which are all the uncut things, so like all the raunchier stuff, which was really funny to watch because I'm like, oh, that's uncut. Oh, that's uncut. I've never seen the film before. I'm like, that's uncut. So that was amusing. I had to just enjoy watching it because I don't know. I think erotic thrillers are really funny. So yeah, I don't know. It's just because like all the thrilling parts for me, I just find to be hilarious. So yeah, and Drew Barrymore was interesting in it. Interesting film overall. On the 28th, I double featured Kinds of Kindness in 35mm at the Astor with Helene, which was really nice. This is her second Yorgos film, I believe. Her first one was like Poor Things, which we watched last year. Not last year? Yeah, it was. My God, December. And we both loved Poor Things. I really liked this as well. We both enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it 4 stars. It felt like, because I just watched Dogtooth like 2 weeks earlier, I was like, this feels very Dogtooth, but it has like bits of The Lobster, it has bits of The Favourite, bits of Killing of the Sacred Deer. Like, I've watched all of those films. I'm like, this feels it feels very Yorgos. Like, the fact that I had 2 people in like 2 rows in front of me leave halfway throughout the film just because I got a bit too cannibal heavy was really funny. It looked great. 35mm was good. Maybe would have watched it in 4K instead on the projector, but I was happy with the 35mm. It's good. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting catalogue of different narratives with different characters, mostly played by the same actors. I love how Hunter Schafer shows up for like 2 seconds. It's funny. It was really amusing and dreadful, but beautiful and funny and sad. Yeah, classic Yorgos. Then, of course, I watched In the Mood for Love because I'd gotten home, Helene had gone home. I was like, sure, I'll watch it. You know, if I watch it tonight, then I can watch 2046 the next night, and then I can watch the Grandmaster on the Tuesday night because my brother's going out on Tuesday night, so I got the theater to myself, which is great because they're all long movies. In the Mood for Love isn't. It's like 90 odd minutes, which is crazy, and it was beautiful. I gave it 4.5. Last time I gave it 4, I think I wasn't as. The narrative was bizarre to me because I think it was my first ever of his films that I watched. It was either that or Chunking Express, but I watched them at Acme like 2 years ago or whatever, which again were these presentations, these 4Ks that Criterion also worked on. So yeah, but I really liked it a lot more this time. Weirdly, I don't care as much for the characters. I like the mood, I like the story and everything, and you know, how it's shot, how it's more deliberately focused. It almost feels like a juxtaposition to Happy Together in terms of how that's chaotic, but about two characters who are in love, but are basically very toxic for each other. And this film is like two people who would work really well together but just aren't allowed to, and it's like, you know, even touching is such a unique thing for them, which is hilarious because you watch the deleted scenes, you realize they definitely have sex, but not in the actual narrative of the film, which is really funny. So I thought that was quite nice. It's disappointing I couldn't find any of the deleted scenes to have the dance scene, but I think that was just discovered and put on the Twitter, which sucks. It would have been great having that on the Blu-ray release. But yeah, again, I just didn't care as much for the characters this time. I wasn't enraveled with their story, but I'm like, I don't know, I didn't feel emotions for them, but I'm also like, I don't think it matters. Like, I wasn't in the mood for love, but I was in the mood for love. So, good enough, you know? So, still a goddamn good film. But yeah, so on the 29th, I was going to just watch 2046, but instead I was like, you know, everyone's talking about that Deadpool and Wolverine film, and I don't want to watch it. The trailers look bad. I don't like the director's previous film. I just don't like Ryan Reynolds that much anymore. He's so obnoxious. Obviously, I like Hugh Jackman. Nothing to go wrong about with Hugh Jackman, unless it's The Greatest Showman. But it's like, yeah, alright. I was like, if I can either get a free ticket or see it for $1, I'll watch it. And I looked at my Hoyt's Rewards and my, I've actually got the VIP account, whatever, and the Village Cinema one, and the cheapest ticket I could get was $1 for a standard screening at Hoyt's. So I went to Hoyt's and watched it for $1, which surprised me. I actually enjoyed it, also because I went to Pop Mart just beforehand, bought a figurine. It turned out to be a really rare figurine, so like a mystery box one. So I can sell that for like $150, which is great. I don't know if I will or not, but you know. But yeah, so I spent $1 to watch Deadpool and Wolverine, and I actually enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means. I probably think that I think I might prefer it over the first one. I haven't seen the first one for such a long time, and I didn't love the first one, mostly because the trailers all ruined the jokes for me, whereas this one I didn't watch any trailers. I saw one trailer, I'm like, this looks kind of shit. It looks so Marvel. And then watching it in the cinemas, I'm like, yeah, it's alright. I thought it was fun. It's, you know, got some amusing jokes. I like the Deadpool stuff to a degree. Everything that I like to it is to a degree. I like the cameos to a degree. I like the characters to a degree. I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously. But I, you know, for $1, not the worst use of my time. And, like, the cinema was fine, you know, regular Hoyt screening, so you still got, like, recliner chairs and shit. So, yeah. I don't know. For me, this was more of a farewell to the, you know, 20th Century Fox than it is to, yay, more Marvel, because I just don't give a shit about Marvel anymore. And then even them announcing Doctor Doom and whatever, I was just like, I don't care. None of it interests me. So watching this film for it being part of the MCU, but watching it as a conclusion to all those Fox films that I grew up with and still persisted to watch in cinemas, I still watch those in fucking cinemas. It's crazy. And yeah, really liked it. So, fun. I think my favourite Deadpool is still the second one. I enjoyed the Super Duper cut especially. I got the 4K of that, which apparently is really rare now, which is crazy. I keep saying that, but it is. Either way, I don't know if I'll watch that again soon, but, you know, there's the juvenile humour to it that it's like, I appreciate it as a teenager, but I don't know if I'll appreciate it as much now. I didn't dislike it in this one. It's not like I was like, ugh, he's making sex jokes. disgusting. I was like, no, it's just none of it fazed me because I'm like, I've just seen all this shit before. It's the same run of the mill stuff. I'm mostly here for Wolverine, to see his character, to see the cameos to a degree, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. And then I watched 2046 when I got home. Ironically, these two movies are both the same goddamn runtime, 128 minutes. Isn't that crazy? They're both the same runtime. I gave 2046 4 stars, really liked it. Don't love it as much as In the Mood for Love, but I kind of think I prefer it. I'm getting... Again, gave a 4 like I did for In the Mood for Love the first time. But I think for me it's the factor of like the futuristic stuff they introduce, and then they don't touch it for like 40 minutes, and then when they bring it back, like I'm missing it by that stage, and then they bring it back and I'm like, no, go back to the other guy. I like the other guy's story. He got interesting. Why are you cutting away? So yeah, it's really interesting. A really beautifully done film. Very long. It's I know that the next one I have to watch, the Grandmaster, is the same runtime, 130 minutes, which is the long version because I got the Chinese Blu-ray. It is very much it drags a bit with its pacing, which some of his films already do because of their artistic lack of things happening kind of nature, but that one dragged a bit because of its jumping between the two. But I like the characters, I like the style. I love that Maggie Cheung doesn't really show up, but she kind of does at the same time. It's a weird film. Anyway, what else did I watch? Okay, so 2046. So on the 30th, I watched The Grandmaster. I feel like I did other things, but I really didn't. I just edited. This video that you're watching right now, I was editing, and then I'm like, I want to watch movies. I'm bored of editing. So I watched The Grandmaster. The Blu-ray I have is the Chinese cut. It is the 130-minute long version. The old version I had watched was the 108-minute long version. I did not know that, despite the fact that I had even double-checked it after we watched it initially. It's one of those things, if you don't know that there's an alternate cut until you do. I didn't really notice too many differences, but because there's not really like usually there's a website that compares, but I guess the website that compares doesn't have both versions, so can't compare it. But it definitely seems like a more filled out version. It emphasizes its point about legacy and stuff, which is why it's not completely about the Ip Man guy and everything, hence why it's not called Ip Man, it's called the Grandmaster. I don't even think the Grandmaster is referring to him. I don't even think it's referring to the girl either. I think it's referring to her dad, who's like the Grandmaster of all like these two communities, and like she's his daughter and Ip Man becomes his successor, but then there's the other guy who's also the successor, and that's why it's like a kind of battle between the three, but not really. It's not really a huge fight movie. It's more of a family drama legacy film. Yeah, it's a Wonka Wai film, but it also has stylish action set pieces. It is stunning. It's a pretty okay Blu-ray. I could use a new, higher quality transfer, but during most of it, it looked fine. So I was content. I gave it 4 stars. Despite seeing the longer version, don't really think I think it's better than the previous version, but I kind of still feel the same way towards it, where it kind of is a bit, it's alright here, it's alright there. It's fine, it's fun, you know. Apparently, of all the Wonka Wai films, this is his most recent one. I looked it up, and like, he's only done 2 other films that I haven't seen. One that was just before Chungking Express, and one that was after In the Mood for Love, which is his first US film, and I just need to watch both of those, and then I've watched them all. Plus this TV series, it's like 30 episodes long, that's a sequel to 2046, and it's been coming out since December last year. Anyway, on the 31st, I did a double feature that is very, very strange. I watched All Ladies Do It, which I don't know what poster I can put up there because there is nudity on it. It is an Italian erotica film. You'll see in my next This Week In, because that's the one where I unboxed it. I got it in part of the Prime Day sales. It was like $20, 4K UHD, Tinto Brass. I'd never watched any of his films. He did Caligula, and that's coming out from 4K from Umbrella, so I kind of wanted a good precursor. I liked it, actually. I gave it 3.5 stars. Yeah, it's erotica. It is, like, basically porn with plot. It's very graphic in terms of what it shows, like, full nudity, completely just everything, close-ups of everything. It's really funny because during most of the sex scenes, all the male appendages I don't know if I can say the particular word on YouTube. They're fake. You can tell because they all look the same, but they've all got this like texture to it. It's really funny to watch. I think there's a comedic element to the film anyway, but there are real elements to the male lower nether regions later in the film. So it's Italian. I wasn't bothered. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. It's like basically a film about like female empowerment in like a really distinct way, like in any way the Europeans can try. it's interesting. Again, if you're not into watching films that are 40-50% sex, don't bother. But yeah, I think it was interesting. Again, it was nicely erotic, so there was enough of a turn on for some of the scenes. There are things in it that I don't find sexually appealing. A lot of the scenes in the bathrooms, I'm like, I don't see how people can find that stuff appealing. It's not for me, but I'm not going to turn it off. I've spent money on this. But, you know, European. Yeah, anyway, it's the do of a bidet. Anyway, but the film was nice. It, again, looks great. Wonderful transfer. I ended up going with the Italian mono because it sounded the best. The stereo English was not great, nor was the mono English because it's dubbed. And the stereo Italian was fine. It's just a bit too broad with its music, a bit too heightened. The mono seemed to kind of really like punch it all together nicely, and the visuals were nice. So I mean, the 4K was nice, but also the visuals were nice. A lot of butts in this movie. Anyway, a lot of everything. Fun, but for a distinct taste, to be completely honest. Anyway, I gave it a 3.5 if I hadn't mentioned that. A lot of people shit talk in this film just because it's got porn and it's like, yeah, of course, it's erotica. What the fuck do you expect? What, you don't watch erotica and expect anything but sex. If you get a plot and you get character stuff, then you know it's better, and this is one of those better ones. So, there you go. And last but not least, we had The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which is a new 2024 film. I gave it 3 stars. My colleague actually suggested it to me because he's like, oh, you gotta watch this new Guy Ritchie film. It's on Amazon. And I'm like, oh, is it that one about the warfare of the gentlemen and stuff? And he's like, yeah, you've heard of it? I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, yeah, it sucks that it never got a theatrical release. I'm like, yeah, well, that's because Amazon bought the international distribution rights and put it straight on their platform. And because I have Prime, luckily for free because of Prime Day sales, hence why I got all ladies do it. I put it on and watched it. I sat through the 2 hours. It's on 4K with HDR. It looks fine. It was fine. It's pretty generic action film. Has a bit of an extra charm because it's mostly the Guy Ritchie and his Cockney characters. They're just fighting Nazis, which works, you know, sure, why not? Visually, it didn't really strike me as very distinct, mostly because, especially the lighting of it, like, you know his visual style. He usually has something more ecstatic to it, but there wasn't really anything there. And visually it got it very, very murky. Like, as it was, it's very naturalistic lighting. All the daytime shots are very bright, and all the nighttime shots are very dark. And at first I was thinking, oh, these nighttime shots are way too dark, this is ridiculous. But then I realized in context it's a war film. Of course it's dark. They can't have the lights on. There's a war going on. So they'll like have a shot of London at night, and it's just all dark because it's like all the lights are off, but you can still see everything. And I'm like, well, that looks fine and makes sense in the context. It's the Blitz. You can't show anything. And of course, there are planes flying above, and then the bombs go off, and you get more of a distinction of it. It has a nice visual tweak there, but it's not until the final act where there's the big, you know, taking down the ship, a lot of explosions, all this kind of nighttime scene, and it looks really bad. All the wide shots, you can't tell what the fuck's going on. Most of it's like a lake in the middle and then boats around the outside, but there's no lighting to it, so you don't know what's what. When there were explosions, they're too bright. Probably the HDR and everything doesn't help, but because then it flicks to a shot of, like, you know, of people, and it's not like the brightness is reflected on them. It's a distance away, so they're just seeing it, but you know they're seeing it because, like, oh, it's kind of shot reverse shot. So the language of cinema is telling you what's happening, but there's no lighting to reflect on them, so when you get a bright light, it'll cut to them, and it's dark again, and it hurt my eyes. Strained them a little bit. So, Yeah, we need to hire lighting people. What the fuck? I believe they're called gaffers, but in general, just for the love of God, light your fucking scenes. Most of the mid shots and close up shots were fine because they were still using like blue lighting and stuff, so they had an extra light to it to some degree, which made it fine. It was just those big wide shots or those specific action shots where you had explosions and then nothing in contrast. There's even a part in a boat where there's a fight scene, and it would look great, except for the fact that the lighting is really distinct. Like whenever someone goes between two light bulbs, like there's one behind them, one in front, the light in front of them isn't bright enough to show you their face, so it's just darkness, and it just keeps happening with these modern films where you just keep getting films where if they're not in a direct light, you can't see them at all. It's not a dramatic contrast or anything. It's not like, oh, they're in the shadows, it means something. It's like, no, it just means that there's no technical craft, and no people on set putting a light in front of this person's face. It just looks like shit. So the film was still fine. Like, outside of those issues I had with it, which, trust me, I will be bringing up with my colleague, he won't care. But it's fine, It's not it's probably not the Guy Ritchie film people would want, but it is, I guess, if you like, I'd say maybe Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and stuff, like, again, the Cockney attitude people, it's just they're fighting Nazis. So, sure, why not? Anyway, that's all for this month. See you kids next month where something happens. I don't know what it is, but it's happening. I don't know what it is. I don't think anything's happening. Bye.